Hello everyone, welcome to this presentation. Before we begin, I would like you to take a look at the two photos that we're seeing on the screen right now. So here on the left, we have a classroom, and on the right, we have an office meeting. So we often tend to think about these two spaces as different scenarios. Of course, they serve a different purpose, and we don't normally put them together, but they're actually more related than we think. So here is a little bit of what we're going to be discussing throughout this whole presentation, and the importance of the correlations of education and organizations, right? So without any further ado, let's begin. My name is Daniel Arroyave, and I am currently a final year student at the University of El Rosario. I'm studying International Business Management and Supply Chain Management. And today I will discuss with you my experience with the Capstone Project, or as I would like to define it, a platform for students to become catalysts of organizational transformation. You're probably wondering, what does that mean? What does catalyst of organizational transformation refer to? And we're going to take a look at that in a little bit, but why don't we first take a look at the different contents that we were going to be reviewing today. So first of all, I will give you an introduction. I will try to explain to you what the Capstone Project is, how it was formed, what's its main purpose, and how does it work, basically. And then I will take you through the different stages of the project and the experience that we had as students here. And finally, what we learned from this project. So I would like to start by introducing this phrase that we see here. Education becomes a fundamental factor for maintaining a sustainable and profitable business, since it is possible to achieve a successful organizational strategy without a strong information base. And this is completely true. If organizations in a globalized society want to design a strong strategy, a successful strategy, and bring transformation from within, they really need to have a strong information base. And information is generated by knowledge. And who shares knowledge? Well, that's the role of education, basically. And that's why it's so important for higher education institutions and universities to be aware of that and to actually do something about it. And that's why the Capstone Project is all about. So what's the Capstone Project, essentially? The Capstone Project is an undergraduate final project. It is one of the options that we here at the university have to complete our graduation project. And it basically consists of a strategic alliance that the university is in charge to make with a Colombian enterprise, where the students that are going to be part of these projects become business advisors to solve some of these companies' issues. You know, it's kind of like a consultancy service, but it becomes a symbiotic relationship because the students, of course, engage in a practical learning situation where they're not only looking at the academic part of it or the theoretic part of it, but also a practical side of how to put into practice everything they've learned throughout their programs. And also, they're generating value to these organizations that normally are small and medium enterprises that do not have the budget to pay for a big corporation or a consultant agency that can provide them with these sort of services. So that's what the Capstone Project is. And I myself had the honor to be part of the first version of the Capstone Project here at the business school. So I will talk to you about my experience, what did we do, which company we worked with, and what we can learn from all of this. So first of all, this first part, I like to call it Change Igniters, the beginning of an alliance, because really it is the part where we start to, transform from within and identify the opportunities that we have, this company that was assigned to us. So we worked with a company called Cafe Soca, which is a Colombian coffee brand of Williamson origin with an experience of over 30 years in the industry, and that specializes in specialty and premium roasted coffee from this region. So basically the company situation started in 2018. Of course, they were present in 30 years but they had to change its business model. So in 2019, they began a physical expansion, opening new stores here in Bogota. And then 2020 came, and with 2020, COVID-19 also came. So the shutdown and the lockdown of the economy really hit them. And it was so hard for them to actually keep the company going that they had to shut down some of their stores. But then in 2021, with the establishment of the new normal, the restrictions being lifted up, and this new reactivation of the economy, they started to open again and start to work on the previous plans that they had before. But of course, the losses and the differences that the pandemic had left occasionally left them to think about what else could they do to keep the company going. And that's when they started to believe that internationalization was going to be the next step, but they didn't know how to do it. And that's when the capstone project starts. So the project objective basically is advise the company Café Soca in the evaluation, creation, and implementation of an internationalization plan for its business and its different product lines. So that was basically the project objective. This project was going to be divided into 3 different stages that we as students designed with the help of our mentors who are professors that are specialized in these topics and who guide us throughout the whole project, so we can have some sort of guidance and someone to look up to while we're working on this. So the project phases are 3. They were going to be work on semesters, so the whole project would last a year and a half. The first phase, which took place in the second semester of 2021, was a diagnosis and research of international markets for the internationalization plan. Then we were going to have a phase 2, which would be in the second semester and the first semester of 2022, where it would present the company with a strategic proposal of how to execute and implement their internationalization plan. And there was going to be also a third phase in the second semester of 2022 that would consist of a follow-up of the different strategies that the company is actually doing to implement the plan that we provided them with. So that's how we start with the second part of this presentation, the change actors. So now we were not only changing actors, we already knew what we had to do, but now we had to actually do something about it. So change actors, identifying pain points and providing solutions. So here we needed to create a way to actually analyze what was the problem that this company was facing, what led them to that position that they were at the moment, and how could we change that. So that's how we created the dimensional model of variables for internationalization. So it all started with a situational analysis where we kind of assess the internal factors and the external factors that define the strategic position of the company. With that in mind, we knew how to keep going and how to create a dimension analysis that could allow us to understand where could the company go in terms of where could they expand, the capacity that they have, not only financially, but also in terms of production, in terms of operations, and then defining some variables to analyze which country or which market would be most suitable for that. And then we would rank these and give these markets a score to finally create this dimension mix. So for you to understand a little bit, I'm going to show you the 5 dimensions that we established. First of all, it was the market destination, analyze the culture, the barriers that we have socially, demographically, geographically. Then, of course, the product in the market. How is this product perceived? Does it already exist? Does it have any similar product that could be a competition? How could establish a demand analysis? How are we going to actually generate demand in this market? Then the competitive landscape as well, and of course all the marketing and logistics issues. The exports, the trade obligations, the trade policies that we would have to incur as a company in order to get to these different markets. So after analyzing the different potential, we got to a mix of 5 different countries: the United States, China, South Korea, France, and United Arab Emirates. And the model, after analyzing it, said that United Arab Emirates would be kind of like the best scenario for the company here. So then we presented this information to the company, and we decided that it was time to move on to the next stage, where we would actually create an action plan and to set basically what would going to be the activities needed to get to this market. And that's how we get to the third part: change catalyst, accelerating business success through innovation. So we had already decided that we were going to go to the United Arab Emirates, but how were we going to do that? We classified these actions into 7 different objectives and goals. So the first one, we're going to determine what product would be exported and what would be its characteristics considering this new market. We were going to adapt to it. We were going to create something new, disruptive. We needed to define that. After that, we were going to execute the operational activities prior to export, meet the set of the requirements necessary to export, everything related to trade policies, all the taxes and regulations that we needed to fulfill. After that, identify and evaluate the market access conditions and define the international marketing strategy, which channel we were going to enter first, how we were going to do that, and establish the logistics and transport as strategy. And after doing that, of course, we needed to sit down and analyze how this project would be feasible financially. So we presented the company with these 7 different objectives that actually had 48 actions. Some of them needed to be carried out by the company, some of them needed to be carried out by us. And at the end of the day, we managed to get some very good results. The company went to Expo Dubai to present with ProColombia, which is the institute and entity of tourism and international commerce here in Colombia. And we also created a session, an open door session with the Colombian Arabic Chamber of Commerce, so the company could start, interacting with more stakeholders and different collaborators to start entering this new market. However, when we finished the second part, there was an unexpected challenge, a change, a shift of priorities. And we did not see that coming at first, but it's something that every consultant is exposed to. So organizations, as we know them, they're dynamic. They're changing all the time. And let's say that Café Soca was not the exception. When we started working with them, the change in the market was very noticeable. So as the restrictions started to get lifted up more and more and more, the economy started to reactivate. So they had to shift and prioritize, as a small company, their growth in the Colombian market, the local market. So they did not have the capacity to be fulfilling all of the different activities that we had planned for them in order to start expanding into a foreign country, especially in the United Arab Emirates, but they still wanted to do that. So we needed to change our dynamic. We needed to understand what the company was going through, how we could help them, and how we can actually provide them with valuable information that they could use, not only in their current process or in the initial project that we developed, but considering all these changes and this new market perspective. So that's how we got to the third stage, where we created an action plan definition. So analyzing all the different objectives that we had structured in the last stage, we decided that we would have to focus only in 2 that could help the company to get to the United Arab Emirates, but also it would be useful for them to grow internally here in Colombia. So the first one was going to be the demand generation activities, specifically through digital channels. So it was a moment where we learned, but we also taught the company how to use and how to automate their customer relationships, how to do client outreach, how to use client outreach tools, lead profiling methodologies through different platforms, and also acquire the international trademark and the financial investment that these needed. So they could know the different steps of this process and how to actually decide if it was beneficial for them to get this international trademark registration or not. And after that, we were able to create a very good strategy, and the company started applying what we provided. And it was a very enriching experience for both the company and also us as students, that we started to interact with an organization. We started to start analyzing not only what we had learned in the classes, but also understand that the market is dynamic, is not always static. And I feel like that's one of the biggest lessons that we'll learn from it. So that takes me to the last part, which is empowering students with practical learning. Business schools should open spaces where students can learn to face challenges that real organizations deal with on a daily basis, and learn how to manage these disruptions. Because through this type of platforms and scenarios, we're able to acquire soft skills and put into practice the hard skills that we have learned in our classrooms, and adapt to different environments. And this is very important prior to our engagement in the labor market as professionals, and it definitely could give us an advantage to start working later on. So this scenario offered by the Universidad del Rosario also represents an adequate example on how business schools and how institutions need to create synergy with the real sector and generate a symbiotic alliance, where we're not only learning in a practical way, but also providing these companies, these organizations, will knowledge with real value that's going to help them generate a more grounded decision-making process. And that ultimately will help to the country's development, to the growth of small and medium enterprises. And until we understand that as development countries, we need to put education in the center and create this type of alliances and this type of scenarios, it's going to be very hard to evolve and understand that these new generations now need to be engaged from the very first start with how the world works in a globalized environment. So basically, that was what the Capstone project was about. Thank you so much for this moment, and if you want to contact me, here is my information for any further question. Thank you so much.